Hello, and welcome to the turbulent world with me, James M. Dorsey, as your host. Prime Minister Binyamin Netanyahu has reduced his security toolkit to overwhelming military force and land grabs. Following on the heels of Israel's devastation of Gaza, weakening of his Iranian-backed Lebanese Shiite militia Hezbollah, and assault on Palestinian refugee camps in the West Bank, Mr. Netanyahu is now demanding that the Syrian army and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the insurgent group that led the ouster of former President Bashar al-Assad, refrain from deploying south of the capital Damascus. We demand the complete demilitarization of southern Syria in the provinces of Quneitra, Daraa, and Suwaida from the forces of the new regime. Likewise, we will not tolerate any threat to the Druze community in southern Syria, Mr. Netanyahu said. Earlier, Israel insisted it would remain for the foreseeable future on Syrian territory beyond the Golan Heights, occupied in the 1967 Middle East War. Israeli troops moved into a United Nations buffer zone in Syria immediately after Mr. al-Assad's overthrow. Satellite images show that the military has established at least 7 new outposts in the buffer zone. Mr. Netanyahu presumably believes that Western caution towards the new Syrian government gives him a degree of cover. Western nations have shied away from lifting all sanctions imposed on Mr. al-Assad's Syria because it supported militant groups and its brutal civil war conduct. Even so, Europe and the United States have eased sanctions, saying a complete lifting would depend on Mr. al-Shara keeping his promise of an inclusive, more moderate Syria. This week, Mr. al-Shara opened a national dialogue conference to discuss a new path for the nation, which will shape the drafting of a new constitution, new economic frameworks, and a plan for institutional reform. Meanwhile, Israel's most watched commercial television channel, Keshet 12, provided insights to support Mr. Netanyahu's demand. Channel 12 journalist Italy Angel highlighted Mr. Netanyahu's security concerns by filming his unfettered and uncontrolled access to abandoned Syrian military bases, including secret Syrian facilities hidden for years and Iranian command centers. I cannot believe myself as an Israeli that I can walk around here. Everything here is available. I can even take the warheads of the missiles, Mr. Angel said. What is unavailable may be equally important, and Israel may dangle a potential hook in front of Mr. al-Shara. Although it is unthinkable at the moment that the Gaza ceasefire is on the verge of breaking down, and Mr. Netanyahu threatens to resume the war, the Prime Minister could offer to help transitional President Ahmed al-Shara tackle Syria's severe electricity shortage. Israel trumps gas through Jordan to Egypt, where it was previously re-exported to Jordan as Egyptian gas. Washington Institute for Near East Policy energy scholar Simon Henderson noted that a 2021 study established that technically the gas could be pumped from Jordan to Syria under the same label. Energy will be a high priority for Mr. al-Shara when he visits Jordan this week for talks with King Abdullah. Despite his jihadist past, Mr. al-Shara has responded cautiously to Israel's encroachment on his country's territory. While calling on Israel to withdraw from territory it grabbed since Mr. al-Assad's fall, Mr. al-Shara has tried to reassure Israel that he does not want conflict and will not allow Syria to be a base for attacks against Israel. Members of the Druze community, a heretic Muslim sect that populates areas Israel has occupied since Mr. al-Assad's fall, and the Golan Heights, have complained that Mr. al-Shara has ignored their plight despite initial contacts with the new government. Meanwhile, Israel is developing a pilot program that would allow Syrian Druze to work in construction and agriculture on the Golan Heights. Israel annexed the heights in 1981. U.S. President Donald Trump recognized the annexation during his first term in office. With Mr. al-Shara struggling to establish control of Kurdish-dominated and Turkish-occupied areas in northern Syria and ensuring the Druze and Alawites, followers of the Shiite Muslim sect from which Mr. al-Assad hails, have a stake in the new Syria. Israeli officials have called for support of the Kurds, countering Turkish demands that the United States withdraw its 2,000 troops from Syria. Israel has insisted they remain to maintain the fight against the Islamic State. Turkey has long opposed U.S. support for the Kurdish-dominated Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, that provided the ground troops in confrontations with the Islamic State. Turkey asserts that the SDF is an extension of the outlawed Kurdish Workers' Party, PKK, and its Syrian arm that has waged a 4-decade-long low-intensity war in southeastern Turkey. Although he initially favored withdrawing the U.S. troops, Mr. Trump backed down on recalling them during his first term in office. It is unclear whether the president will follow his instincts in his current term. The SDF controls oil-producing areas and the Euphrates, Tapka, and Tishreen dams, which supply electricity to a quarter of Syria. SDF commander Mazloum Abdi said he and Mr. al-Shara agreed on general principles, including integrating his forces into the new Syrian military and the notion of a unified Syria, but disagreed on the practical details. The SDF wants autonomy for Kurds in a federated Syria and wants the Syrian military to absorb the forces as a bloc. All other rebel groups have disbanded and disarmed, with fighters joining the military as individuals. Moreover, Mr. al-Shara wants a unitary, not a federated Syria. A unified army is not an option. It's a necessary, Mr. al-Shara told the National Dialogue Conference. For Mr. Abdi, the differences with Mr. al-Shara were substantial enough to stay away from the conference. Thank you for joining me today. If you appreciate hard-hitting, fact-based analysis, please consider upgrading to a paid Substack subscription to help ensure that independent journalism and analysis survive. Without your support, hard-hitting, fact-based analysis would not be possible. You can contribute by going to jamesmdorsey.substack.com and choosing one of the subscription options. Thank you for your support and loyalty. Take care and best wishes.